What's up, beautiful people? What's up, beautiful people? In partnership with WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting Network, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
And I'm Dexter.
And our topic for today is men and unfaithfulness. I really like this topic because it's a popular topic.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people are really questioning. And really, even though this is directed towards men, this is really a bigger question for women. And keep in mind for our listeners, our listeners are pretty mixed between men and women. And we do have a lot of people that are submitting questions, submitting topic suggestions, which we really want people to do because this is about them. And we had a particular woman that wanted to know this question. I think it's a really good question, and we're going to really dive deep into, not too deep, but we're going to dive deep into multiple reasons why men cheat, what's really influencing this behavior, what's really causing us, or some of us, to really decide to do these things and so forth. So, why is this, such a popular question?
I think when we both saw the question, we was like, there it goes, good question. Mm-hmm. It's a loaded question.
It is a very loaded question.
And I think one of the reasons why it's a very popular question is because a lot of the times the person who takes ownership of a person's indiscretion really isn't the one who is subject for blame. And so a lot of times people wonder, this question really speaks to self-worth. It speaks to value. It speaks to the roots and the nature of people and within a relationship. We'll talk about it, I'm sure during this show, but one of the things people always want to know is, what could I have done better to keep this person from cheating?
Yeah.
And I think, as we explore this topic, one of the things that will come up is recognizing who the real, who's at fault really, who is the antagonist, for lack of better words, in the relationship.
Right.
And so I think that this question really speaks to self-worth, self-value, and, relationship strength. And so that's why it comes up quite often. And I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Most definitely. And, we can really start off with, really defining what is cheating. And I really do believe, and we're really focusing on, just so we're on the same page, the question is, why are men who are married cheating?
Yeah, that was the question.
So that is more of that makes it more, I guess, what's the word for it? So it's not
specific.
It's more specific for the topic, for, really directing towards married men. So for cheating, I think that's such a word that everyone defines differently. I think it's something that, when you ask 10 people, I think it's gonna sound pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But there are some things, when we get more specific, people are gonna have different examples that for them it is disrespectful to the marriage or the relationship. And I think that's very important for the couple to really dive deep in really understanding those things as well. But I really want to start off with, when it come down to the reasons, because that's what it is. I mean, we've discussing the reasons why men cheat, and this is not to give any excuses. So anything that we list down is not an excuse, but we do want to bring some understanding to that. So I think for a lot of men, we have a hard time expressing ourselves.
Yeah.
And we say that in so many different videos, but it's so relevant in so many topics. And since we have a hard time really expressing ourselves and opening ourselves up, it really affects our communication. And we all know, we always say in marriage, communication is key. But, communication is such a broad term. When there's a problem, how do we respond to that problem?
Yeah.
When there's a problem, do we hold back? When there's a problem, are we quick to talk about it? When there's a problem, are we real angry and we're just not able to talk about it? Do we kind of seclude ourselves when there's a problem? And I think when you really look into the cheating, when you listen to everybody who say they cheated in their marriage, they always say, well, this was what was going on that led me to do X, Y, and Z. And there's a lot of underlying problems that's really influencing that behavior. We're not saying that makes it right to go ahead and do that, but it is underlying problems that go neglected or unresolved. And to add on to that, a lot of people express, my needs weren't met. But now the question becomes, and we'll get more into it a little later, when those needs are not met, what are those needs? And we'll get into those needs as well.
One of the things also, as we're talking about cheating and defining it, I think one of the most simple ways to really explain it would be a violation of an understood rule or agreement. If you think about it in sports, we say someone cheated because they went outside of the context of what the understood rules were. And so in a relationship, there's a mutual understanding, and when you go outside of that boundary, you're cheating. And so, as we're talking about this thing called infidelity, I wanted to really kind of put that out there. But, talking about reasons why men do it, at the end of the day, the reasons are as diverse as the individual who's committing the act of adultery. Right. There's 1,000 reasons, and we would never be able to pinpoint every reason. I would say that, one of the main things is that you have the person has to examine what's going on inside of them. I know, and I'll say this as, let's work with 3 right now. Narcissism, the thrill of the hunt, is a reason why some men cheat, and that boils down to a very, selfish, viewpoint. It's all about me. It's all about me, making sure that my needs are being met. It's all about my own personal pleasure. And so the thrill of the hunt now becomes the main focus and the reason why you step outside of the boundaries of your marriage. Another reason may be the person could be dealing with the spirit of rejection, and I know that they might sound kind of odd as it relates to a person who's married. You're assuming that they've been accepted by the person that loves them and that they're married to. Exactly. But the reality is that the person who they may have been rejected growing up. And so now they're getting this outside attention from someone outside of their marriage. And what it does is it validates them. They may be remembering all of those times where they were rejected growing up. And, now they're getting this attention and it really, it draws them into committing that act. And then, let's not overlook that sometimes people just really become disinterested, which speaks to, like you were saying, an issue in the marriage, right. Whether it be a communication breakdown or whether it be something else. Over the course of time in that marriage, they've become disinterested. Really speaks to the health of the marriage. Right.
And to add on to that, some men cheat because of a constant feeling of neglection. They're always feeling neglected, and neglect can come in many different ways. You get what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if they don't feel like they're really getting some type of attention, they're going to seek attention somewhere else. But that's not always the case. Sure. So I really want to dive a little deeper into that. When there is that void, or when there is that emptiness, sometimes some people come around, and and we are more, I would say, likely to entertain that temptation. And I think that's another thing that kind of gets us in trouble, is when we entertain that temptation. It's almost like being on a diet. We just know that we're not supposed to have cookies, True. But we just have a piece of the cookie. You know what I'm saying? That piece of the cookie turn into the whole cookie, or maybe even 4 or 5 cookies. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? But you hear a lot of people say, I got caught up in the moment. And I really want to dive into that statement.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? When we say we got caught up in the moment, it's almost as if we're saying, you know what, I didn't have control. You know, I had no control over the problem. And really, I think when we start talking as if we didn't have a choice, I think that's problematic. At the end of the day, it's always a choice.
Oh, definitely.
It's always a choice. But when we're talking about we're caught up in the moment, sometimes what we'll do is when we're going through these problems, understand that it's normal for certain feelings to arise. And we have to understand what those feelings are and how we choosing to go about channeling those feelings. Are we seeking outside our relationship to get what we're lacking? Or are we going into remaining inside of our relationship to understand why we really lacking this? And I think if we really understand why we are lacking it, in whatever case may be, and how is it affecting us, but most of all, telling our spouse and expressing our spouse, look, this is how I'm feeling. You know, if we can do X, Y, and Z, I think we can really start getting in the right direction. Or maybe if we bring someone in, such as a counselor, then we can really start understanding why we're not having an understanding and so forth. Keep in mind, this is my last point. When we say we're caught up in the moment, you know, there's a meme, I don't know if you've been seeing it, with Kermit the Frog, and you have Kermit the Frog speaking to another Kermit the Frog with a black hoodie on. And that's basically picturing, it's almost like the old cartoons when you had the angel on one side and the devil on the other side. But the Kermit the Frog with the black hoodie on is always telling him to do something that he shouldn't be doing. And I think that's a good explanation of what's really going on. In that moment, it feels good because it's overshadowing what we're actually feeling. So a lot of people, they'll say, you know what, I thought about the consequences, but I allowed that devil on one shoulder, or that Kermit the Frog with a black hoodie to convince me that, you know what, this is overshadowing what I'm feeling for that moment, and this is what I'm gonna continue on doing.
You know, you share some very weighty stuff right there, and I think what it boils down to is that to say I was caught in the moment really speaks to a lack of maturity and self control. Because at the end of the day, to commit the act of cheating, adultery, that's 100% a decision that person makes.
100.
You know what's going on as you're taking off the clothes. You know what's going on as you're following through with the act. That is a decision. A lot of the times we even, I would dare to say that leading up to the act, you kind of have a sense of what's going on. The danger about being caught up in the moment, and like I said, 100% of the decision belongs to the person who creates the offense. Sadly, the person who was cheated on oftentimes feels as though they're the ones who's responsible for the offender doing the act. You know, so they're at home questioning themselves, like, what is it about me that caused this person to cheat on me? But the reality is, what you're overlooking is that person was intentional and deliberate in making a decision. And so the first thing I would say is that that is a sign of lack of self-control and discipline to say, I just got caught up in the moment. You know, there's no such thing as getting caught up in the moment as you're, like I said, undressing yourself and, you know, exchanging in the act with another person.
Most definitely. I think another thing is, and I think we briefly spoke about this, but this is such a highlight. I think when we do get married, there's some things that we have to, you know, kind of push aside and no longer do. And maybe even some people as well. And I do believe the company that we keep can really influence that behavior as well. If you're hanging around, and this is not to say that single people are bad, we don't want people to have that understanding, but the fact of the matter is, when you're a married man, you can't participate in everything that single men are participating in. And I think, you know, there's some standards that you not only have to set when you are a married man, but there are some standards that you have to enforce as well. Yeah. It's just something about where when we have, people always say, people don't have any standards. And I don't think that that's quite the problem. I think it's a different story when we don't enforce those standards. It's just like, sometimes me and you, we speak to kids and you can go into a classroom, two classrooms, majority of the time they have the same set of rules. Yeah. But for some reason, both classrooms are not conducted the same way. For some reason, some classrooms are more chaotic than the other classroom. And sometimes that's due to the teacher not enforcing those rules. So you have to understand that, and this goes to the entertaining temptations. I've heard some people who are married who say, I love to flirt. And one thing about it, there are some manipulative people who are really waiting for someone to give them an inch. That's it. You give them an inch, they're gonna really take advantage of that. And again, that's some activity that we have to really be careful of and be mindful of, because we always say one thing always leads to another. One thing led to another. And again, that's another statement that we hear as well, which just stating that you have no control over yourself. When at the end of the day, it's still a choice. So one thing led to another because you allowed it.
What it really boils down to is it becomes a convenient excuse,
right?
For us to step out and do what it is that we want to do. And once again, I got caught up. It's a convenient excuse. I don't know how it happened. Well, yeah, you you got it roused and you went through with it. Exactly. That's what it really boils down to. You said something earlier. You said about having a conversation. And I think, and this only speaks to a certain type of people who commit this act of adultery. But for those who question the ideal and have feelings of stepping out, it speaks to a maturity in the relationship to have the conversation.
Most definitely.
And I don't think I know anyone who's ever had the conversation with their significant other and said, you know what, I've been having these feelings of cheating. Unfortunately, the majority of the people I know who have cheated are having the conversations on the tail end of adultery. Yeah. And so I wonder what a relationship that mature looks like to have that conversation, and what type of support the spouse can be when their husband is saying that, I'm struggling with this, I'm having these type of thoughts.
Man, that's
I don't know. Since if you been in that situation.
I think that's a lot, and you said maturity, that's a lot of maturity. Yeah. I mean, to really in openness as well. I really commend that type of relationship. To really, if you're having those type of thoughts, and really share with your significant other that, look, I've been having these type of thoughts. I ain't did nothing yet, but I'm really considering, or I've been considering this. Or we can just focus on, this is what's really influencing, those thoughts as well. And like I said before, it's those underlying problems. It's always problems that's why it's so important not to allow those problems to always just linger and linger and linger and linger. And because problems can build, and problems is like a balloon. Problems can expand as well. And sometimes we just get to that point where we just say, whatever it is that's kind of relieving that stress, whatever it is that's kind of making me feel better in the moment, that's something. It's going to become a magnet because you're allowing that problem to really linger. So, but I know it's going to be some listeners that's going to say, you know what, these are just simple things. And the thing is, again, it may sound so simple, but for some people, it's such a hard thing to really have those conversations. And once again, it's not an excuse, but if we can really take time out and really have those conversations of what's really causing this anger, what's really causing the lack of self-esteem, what's really causing the financial stress and so forth, I really do believe we can really prevent some things from actually happening.
Yeah, and I want to share this. I'm paraphrasing a scripture, and it says that there's no temptation that's not common to man. So for as unique as the temptation may feel, there's someone else who's gone through it.
Right.
And then that God will also give you a way of escape. I think a lot of times we like to tiptoe the line of temptation. And we like getting as close to the line as possible without overstepping the boundary. If the temptation is present, let that be the opportunity to get away from it. Rather than testing your willpower to see how close you can get to creating the offense. Because at the end of the day, what it's doing is sowing a seed.
Most definitely.
And that seed has the potential to grow. And even though you may have not done anything the first time, you keep inching closer and closer until you find yourself getting caught up. One of the things I wanted to share, and I've had this conversation with a few brothers who've, for whatever reason, have, committed adultery. And I can tell you that 100% of them have some type of feelings of regret,
Most definitely.
And what it boils down to is that prior to committing the act of adultery, none of them really considered the real cost associated with their act. They can only see the fulfilling of that desire, but there's real costs associated with it, whether it be divorce, now you have a financial, cost that you have to maintain because of your action. There's also a relational cost that I think we have a tendency to devalue. If you have children, keep in mind that you're cheating on your children's mother.
Yeah.
And so how does that impact them?
Most definitely.
How do you as a man, kind of become this enforcer of standards, and your children are looking at you like you violated our mother. And should the relationship end, there's always that kind of that hanging cloud where people can point back and say, well, this is the reason my family came to an end.
Yeah.
But no one really measures out those costs before they commit the act. And so, much to what we've been talking about, the having some self-control, having some discipline, we have to get to the point where we ask ourselves, what's going to be the end result if I go through with this? You and I are proponents of always asking yourself, doing the self-assessment. Ask yourself, what is the end result if I go through with this decision? And is it worth it?
Yeah.
And like I said, with all of these gentlemen that I've spoken with, that I've known, throughout the course of my life, all of them have told me, you know what, it wasn't worth it. I wish I knew that it was going to turn out this way.
Yeah. Unless they're narcissists, those folks, they just feel like, it's just all about me. They don't feel any regrets about cheating. I think, it shows a lot of wisdom for, men to have awareness of their temptations. And we're not really, in this video, it's not about bashing men at all.
Oh, no.
Because we do fall short in some areas. But I really do believe when you can gain some awareness of your temptations, because at the end of the day, we all have temptations. But some of us are not necessarily aware of those. And if you're not aware of what you're tempted by, how are you going to know how to set any boundaries to really protect yourself and guard yourself and so forth? And so when you can really, take time out and really think about those things and really list the temptation that you do have, and what are those times or those situations where, you had those moments or you had those thoughts, then you can really begin to set some barriers. Because like I said before, sometimes we mess up relationships due to enforcing or not enforcing boundaries or setting barriers. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to set some barriers, and we have to nip things in the bud. It may seem like it's fun in the beginning, but man, that's something you're going to regret in the long run. So I really do believe that people have to really take time out and gain some awareness of your temptations and understand what do you have to set around you in order to protect not just you, but to protect your marriage as well.
And I'm glad you said that. And I think, I can end on this point. But, like I said, this session is, this topic is not about bashing men because, as you mentioned, we all have our struggles.
Most definitely.
This platform has been created to really talk about the issues that we as men deal with. Mm-hmm. And so let me be the first to say that there is reconciliation after the offense, whether that reconciliation takes place in your marital relationship, that's between you and your partner, you and your wife, but there is reconciliation that you can experience after the offense.
Right.
But here's the thing: if you don't address the behaviors that led you into that act, then it doesn't matter how much reconciliation you experience, because the tendency to go back in that direction is still there because you haven't addressed the behavior. And so once again, if you can do some self-evaluation, understand your triggers, understand what's going on inside of you, you're doing yourself a tremendous service by really giving attention to get whole in that area.
Most definitely. If you're enjoying this broadcast, hey, please just share the broadcast, let everybody know about this video. And once again, if you have any questions, any topic suggestions, you can easily inbox us, DM us, email us whenmenopenup@gmail.com. And, we have people hitting us up about next year already. So if you have any speaking engagements, any conferences, anything, any programs that you would like us to participate in any form or fashion, please feel free to email us at whenmenopenup@gmail.com and we'll look into it. And once again, if you have any services, any products that you would like to highlight on this broadcast, because our fan base and our following base and is growing. We're on iHeartMedia, we're on Spreaker, we're on Spotify, we're on TuneIn. Is there anything else we're on?
We got a few more things in the works.
Yeah, we got a few more things in the works. So, hey, there's no reason why you can't catch the previous videos that we have. And if you can't catch us live, there's no reason why you can't tune in. But once again, my name is Dominique.
And I'm Dexter.
And this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. We are out and we appreciate the love and support. Thank you so much.